welcome to the very first episode of Action Interrupted. I'm your host, Priyanka. Now, the goal of this channel is to basically introduce all of us to the individuals, the businesses, and the communities that have been taking steps to combat our current climate and environmental crises. Our hope is that we can all walk away with some tangible steps that we can implement in our day-to-day lives. So, with that said, let's get started. Guest today is Tammy Thornton, president of Wilton Go Green, a community organization established in 2010 in the town of Wilton, Connecticut. Wilton Go Green is 100% volunteer run and has had and hosts numerous initiatives and events throughout the year, including but not limited to the Zero Waste Fair and Sustainability Expo, which brings in over 100 exhibitors and includes a live recycling drive so that community members can bring in their large recyclables like furniture, household items, mattresses, plastic bags, and so much more. And this event gets over 1,000 attendees, not only from the state of Connecticut, but also from the neighboring states of Massachusetts and New York. Another initiative that Wilton Go Green has taken up is the No Idling campaign, which was started in 2015, and it reminds drivers that if you are going to sit in your car and idle for more than 10 seconds, then please turn off your cars to reduce the emissions. And of course, the most recent initiative is the Do One Thing initiative, which encourages everyone to choose one small thing that we can change in our homes and practices, like using hand towels instead of paper napkins, to reduce waste. And to help us out, they've actually provided a very detailed list of small, barely noticeable, yet seriously impactful changes to us, and the link for that is actually in the description below. In addition to these initiatives and so many more that I haven't even begun to mention in this intro, Wilton Go Green is currently hosting webinars to basically educate the community and even have fun little events like making your own hand scrub. So if you'd actually like information about that, and if you'd like to attend those events, please, again, check out the link in the description below. So with all of that said, let's get started. All right. Hi, Tammy.
Good morning.
So first, thank you so much for joining and for taking the time out to do this interview and talk to us about the organization and all of everything. So I think where I would probably want to start is just what got you interested in this entire environmental movement?
Great. Yes. So I always reflect back on my freshman year of college. Growing up, I can recall using blue bags to separate our recycling, and that was kind of the extent of my life. And trying to save the whales. I was determined to save the whales. I don't know why, but I was determined to save the whales. So I went to college up in Maine, and my freshman year, we all had to take an Intro to Environmental Science class. And it was that class that really turned my whole life around. So it was like this slap in the face, punch in the gut of the world is crumbling around us, and you had no idea what was going on or the damaging effects our human population was doing. And it was very doom and gloom, and it was very depressing, and it was very overwhelming, but it was mind-changing for me as an individual, and really changed the course of who I was and also what I wanted to do in my life. And so obviously, I did lots of different things through my 4 years of college and changed a lot about how I behaved and learned. I'm not perfect and nobody's perfect, but it did make a big difference and really opened my eyes to kind of understanding how our impacts affect the environment. I eventually changed my major from marine biology to environmental science. And I did some environmental education in college. And after college, I worked in environmental education. And so just had a real passion for the outdoors and for the environment. Eventually went to graduate school and got my master's in environmental science, but also teaching. And I taught 7th grade science for 6 years when we were living in Massachusetts, and integrated into my teaching, kind of distilling on this environmental piece as well. I ran all of our Earth Month events. I ran our recycling club at school. I worked to try and reduce waste at our school. So I was doing lots of things like that in my personal life. And eventually stopped teaching and started a family, and we moved back to Connecticut, and kind of things just came to a halt in that world. Just doing anything outside of the home, just paused for a while. And then eventually, after my kids started going to public school, got kickstarted again. And so that's kind of how my life kind of did this ebb and flow. It's always been back there, but it just gets lit under a fire every once in a while. So now we're burning in flames right now. So we're ready to go.
And Actually, one of the points that you mentioned, so the doom and gloom aspect, because
Yeah.
that, to be honest, that bothers me. And I have to remind myself if it's okay, you can't do everything in that aspect. But there's still an underlying guilt that kind of
Yes.
is just constant. It's just always there. It's buzzing, even when I'm driving, or if I have to pick out clothes. Then you're like, oh, but this polyester, that's like microplastics, or if you have cotton, but this is how much water it took to make the cotton shirt. Um, how do you navigate that guilt if you have a method?
I don't have a method. And none of it makes sense. I don't think, I think for some people, they have to just stick focused on one topic or one area that is the easiest for them to manage. And I think that's okay. And for others, they might piecemeal a little. I kind of call myself a hypocritical environmentalist in some ways because, like some days, I just can't do it. And we order takeout and we have tons of Tupperware because of takeout. But the guilt part is I won't put it in recycling because I know it won't be recycled. So now I could stock a restaurant right now at my home. So I think it's just really different for everyone. And for me, it's just, I really stick to some things hardcore and some things I have to be very flexible with. Because it's just not who I am as a person to be so rigid with certain things in my life. And I think that that's a good model for other people too, because you want people to make changes and make those steps towards change. And you have to at least show them that you're not perfect and that it's okay. But yeah, the doom and gloom, there is underlying guilt with a lot of stuff. And I try not to feel that way anymore. And I try to express to others that you don't have to feel that. For some people, that guilt is the motivating driver. And so you want to, kind of work with that. But for others, it's a motivating driver to do nothing.
Right.
So
it's paralyzing almost. And you don't want to look in that direction at all. You want to look at where the happy stuff is.
Yes.
No, I get that. Because there's some days where I'm like, I just rather Netflix all day and not worry about what's going on in the world.
Right.
And then, so you've taken a lot of steps around just in the community and everything. So now, how did you come into Wilton Go Green? And overall, what is your, I guess, vision or the impact that you as Tammy would like to have outside of the organization, which then led you to join the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think me as an individual is just that I just want to make effective change. And I just want to work through, whether it's Wilton Go Green or through the schools, on making positive, effective change. So that's kind of my personal goal and role in life at the moment. Wilton Go Green, I stumbled upon when my older son was in kindergarten attending a PTA meeting, and I found out that the school had not been recycling, and would there be people interested in helping support that initiative? And so I was like, what? Like, how is this not possible? So I did. So I got involved. I found out about the organization. I found out about what they were doing within the schools, trying to roll out a source separation program in the cafeterias. And I just again, that fire just got lit and I just ran with it. And so inevitably, I just started attending Wilton Go Green board meetings and supporting some events, and then eventually becoming a board member. And then in 2020, officially taking on the role as president. So I'm a little over a year into being officially the president for Wilton Go Green.
And I know that with Wilton Go Green, so now just transitioning to Wilton Go Green as a whole, I know that it's 100% volunteer run.
Yeah.
And that on its own, I think is just, that's dedication. To be honest, that's dedication. To have an entire organization that's completely volunteer run. How do you, first of all, I guess, starting from the beginning, what are some of the initiatives, some of the major initiatives that Wilton Go Green has undertaken in its history? I know there are some the One Thing initiative and the Zero Waste Fairs, but what are some of the?
Yeah. So the organization was officially incorporated in 2010. So we're 11 years old, and it spun out of the work of a subcommittee for the Wilton Energy Commission. And so their task was to look at how to help in this subcommittee, how to help improve and raise awareness around Wilton, around energy saving, lifestyle techniques, whatever. And so within that subcommittee, they wound up creating these Wilton Go Green festivals. And so they ran this festival. They brought all these vendors to the town green in May. It was outside, and just kind of bringing like-minded vendors together around energy conservation, water conservation. So kind of all of those things that we still embody as an organization. And from that success, they realized that they needed to do more than what they could do within the Energy Commission. So a few very motivated people went through the process and established Wilton Go Green as an official 501c3 nonprofit in 2010. And then continued the work. So continued to work running these festivals every May, and no idling, established a no idling ordinance within Wilton in 2015 and ran the no idling campaign, worked to bring a green speaker series in, so bringing in presentations or movie screenings to talk about ways to make change within your lifestyle. And so really just didn't focus just on energy anymore, really focused on the whole piece of sustainability. So the conservation of land, of water, of resources, of energy, and so all those things. And so that's kind of where it started and how it's continued on. In 2018, kind of our overarching focus shifted. So because we had spent the last year previously working with the schools to initiate the Zero Waste Schools program, which again did real waste reduction, source separation in our cafeterias, realizing that everything went into one bin when we really should be pulling out things that can be recycled, that food waste was the heaviest component of our waste. And so pulling that out, liquids could easily go down the drain and not get added to our garbage. And so from that Zero Waste Schools initiative, Wilton Go Green kind of shifted its focus to look at really as a whole, how can we not just tell people what to do, but how can we show people what to do? And how can we really focus on waste reduction? Like that's the overarching piece of all of our work now. It's waste reduction. And you can think about that in terms of energy waste reduction, water reduction, like all of those pieces. And so we stopped having the Wilton Go Green Festival and we initiated the Zero Waste Fair, which is now officially the Zero Waste Fair and Sustainable Living Expo. And that really was our way to fine tune the exhibitors and the vendors, look at folks who were really trying to emulate zero waste is hard, right? That's a very high reaching goal. But again, the idea is waste reduction. So bringing in exhibitors who are selling products that help you switch things in your home that can reduce waste, bringing in businesses that are helping you look at your, even green architecture, like looking at your home and really trying to fit it into a different kind of mindset about how to build your home with green building products. Highlighting things like consignment and secondhand and swap shops and all of those pieces that are really emulating this idea of a zero waste lifestyle. Even within our exhibitors, we didn't allow anyone to hand out paper products or tchotchkes. It had to have, we did QR codes so you could go to their website and you could save it on your phone. We had a zero waste feast where all of the food, could either just be eaten by your hands or we would rent real plates and real cups and real utensils so that nothing, again, we were trying not to produce waste. So, so we had a successful 2 years straight and it was growing each year. And the third year, of course, is 2020 and COVID and shut it down. It was going to be the good one. And 2021 isn't going to bring that back, but we're hoping that we can bring back this event because it was really gaining great momentum and it was really our way it was in March, it was indoors, but it was a way to show people and not just tell people.
I actually have been to a couple of the Zero Waste fairs because it's at the local high school and you basically have it all in the gym. And I think one of the coolest parts was that you also, with these companies that are there, you also have a live recycling drive going on outside. So people can actually bring in all the stuff, kind of the crap that's been accumulating in their house. If they're like, I have to get rid of this mattress, I have to get rid of this bicycle, and the big stuff too, not just bring your paper, which that's there too, but it's also the big part.
The hard to recycle. So like we would have electronic recycling, mattress recycling, we would have textile recycling. But then within the gym, we would also have kind of like corks and eyeglasses and cell phones and crayons and markers and things that are so hard that can be recycled, but that those opportunities aren't readily available. So it was always a great opportunity to have people kind of collect that stuff and bring it so that we knew it could be sent somewhere appropriately.
And I think, which kind of leads me to one of the questions I wanted to ask, but it highlights the point that now the community has learned to expect this fair. Outside of COVID, that kind of broke the streak, but the community learns to expect that this event is going to happen. So if there's something I want to throw out, I know I just have to hold on to it until March, and then I can just take it to the high school, and everything would be taken care of, and I'm still being as sustainable as possible for essentially an individual who's living in a house and still has the products and everything. So that's one way that kind of the Zero Waste Fair set an expectation and for the community. Now, what are other ways that Wilton Go Green kind of builds engagement, attraction in the organization and the community?
Yeah. So, I mean, pre-COVID, our opportunities were, attending community events, right, and tabling. So, tabling at our farmers market, tabling at the street fairs, tabling outside of grocery stores. And so that was like one component of what we did in order to interact with the community. And then, of course, we had a great partnership with our town library. And so holding those green speaker events at the library was a way to connect in person with our community and make sure they knew who we were and what we were there for. Obviously, with COVID, we've had to shift, and everything has been online for the past year with our programs. And, it's much harder that way. And for an organization that works much better face to face, people need to see other people making sustainable changes in their life or making lifestyle switches or seeing how easy it is in order to do it. And, we're definitely at the point now, a year and a half into this pandemic of like Zoom fatigue and like nobody wants to talk to anybody else on the computer anymore. But we did it and we've been working on it. And it's also given us some time to step back and reorganize as an organization and spend time increasing our social media presence, spend time updating our website, spend time building out committees, gathering more volunteers. And so it's been a plus in different ways. So we are excited that this spring, with the changes in COVID and protocols, the opportunity to go back out into the community and to be present at our farmers markets, to be present at some community, other nonprofit organizations that we can table at, and really do the best that we can to be more in person this coming summer, spring, summer, and fall. But we'll see. We'll just keep doing what we can do. And again, unsure of what 2022 will allow us to do, but we'll have a better sense, I think, come September. I think, for our fair, the good thing is that because we did it 3 times in a row, we've kind of got it figured out. So if it comes down to September, October, and we know we can do it, we'll pull it together.
That sounds exciting because I love just attending those fairs. That was one of my favorite events. And now one of the other parts that's big when it comes to an organization, whether that's anyone who's watching who would want to start their own organization, I think one of the biggest fundamental problems is always funding. Right. So now the question is, how is Wilton Go Green funded, especially considering it's volunteer run, so that saves cost, but how is it funded?
Yeah, so again, because I wasn't around in the early years, there was definitely some the funding came in and still comes in through our programming. So the Zero Waste Fair was a big fundraiser for us because we would, charge vendor fees. We would ask for donations at the door. And then previously those festivals in May were a really big fundraiser for Wilton Go Green. And so I think there's just been kind of savvy financial savings over the years, do you know what I mean? And there have been some grants that have been written in order to fund some of our programming. Obviously, community donations, doing those fundraisers like the annual Giving Tuesday through Facebook, or there's a Fairfield County Giving Day. There are nonprofit grants out there. One of the pieces for us is we don't have someone as a grant writer who really, can go out there and do that, but that's one of our pieces we would like to work on. So there are nonprofit grants out there. You just have to have someone who knows how to find them and be able to submit them. So we have been fortunate with our donations over the years, and fortunate that we are volunteer and we are not paying anyone. We had paid someone to be an executive director in the past, but that kind of just didn't was working well, but just the funding was going to be depleted, and so that person moved on, which is still a great partner for us, and we just stayed as volunteer. So
it seems like a lot of just trial and error as you work to figure this out. There's no one set answer of here's the one blueprint. It's basically what the community is like, see what we have in terms of funding and support, and then work from there, basically.
Yep.
And so I guess when it comes, so funding is out, we've talked about the Zero Waste Initiative. What are some of the other upcoming projects?
Yeah, so now we're at the end of March. We actually so in lieu of the Zero Waste Fair and keeping people's minds on Wilton Go Green in March, we did run a Make Your March Green Sustainable Living series this past month, which consisted of 3 webinars and 3 Facebook Live events, and then 1 in-person event with our partner at our local nature center. And so that, again, the idea behind that is my ear just flew out of my ear. the idea behind that was, again, just kind of giving some precedence. So we had a webinar around kind of really being your own conservationist in your backyard, and why it's so important for all of us to consider what we're doing to our yards and how that has an impact on the larger environment. We had a webinar on looking at food waste, right? So food waste is a really big topic now, and understanding how impactful we all can be around reducing food waste and what that means. We also had a webinar with our Zero Waste schools, rethinking disposables in our schools. And so a lot more attention is being played out around the safety of disposables, and thinking about going back to the old school way of reusable trays within schools. And then our Facebook Lives revolved around, green cleaning, or revolved around looking at electric vehicle readiness, as well as pollinators, and again, looking at your yard and rethinking your yard. So that was something that we just wrapped up for March, which was really well attended, and I'm grateful to everybody who attended and participated. April we've always kind of left April for the other organizations within Fairfield County, and we've kept ours in March, but we do have 2 events coming up in April, another Facebook Live on home composting, and as well as a green speaker series with Project Drawdown, which is a national organization focusing on ways to reduce our carbon output. So that's exciting. And then we'll do more social media campaigns. And of course, we're going to, revive the beginning of the year. We launched our Do One Thing campaign, and trying to get people to think about, okay, new year, new you, new resolution, but make it green. And the simple act of doing one thing, again, making a simple change, knowing that other people are doing it, feeling good about that. And then that's like, the break free kind of component. It's like, oh, I could do this. Well, then I could do this other thing and this other thing. So we're going to bring back our Do One Thing campaign. And then, we just kind of get a little quieter in the summer, just doing farmers markets. And then we pick things back up. So it kind of ebbs and flows, but just finished the March campaign. We're going to do a new social media campaign, a Did You Know, coming up. We're going to go back to our Do One Thing. And our green speakers.
I mean, wow. Just even though you mentioned that there are ebbs and flows, it seems like there's always something. And part of this, so you actually mentioned earlier that there are all of these wonderful speakers that came on, and I was actually kind of jealous when you mentioned all of these, because I was like, damn, I could learn so much from every single person. So that brings us to one of the most important questions, which is, these are all recorded, right?
Yes, they're all on our website.
Okay, so that brings us to, where can people find you?
Yeah. So we have our website, which is wiltongogreen.org. And then we are on Facebook and Instagram at Wilton Go Green. And we have a Twitter account that's there. It's not quite as active, but our Facebook and Instagram are very active. So, and folks can email us at info@wiltongogreen.org, and it'll go to me. So readily available.
Okay. Actually, I think there's one more, which is your YouTube channel.
Oh, well, that's true. I revived our YouTube channel in response to all of our recordings that we're doing with all of our webinars. So yes, you can just search Wilton Go Green on YouTube, and you can see all of the videos from even before March. So last year we had a couple webinars that we did virtually. So those are there. And then our Facebook Lives and our webinars from March are all on our YouTube channel as well.
Okay. All right. So then the final question. I know the impact that you as Tammy would love to have. Now, what's the impact that Wilton Go Green wants to have in Wilton and in Connecticut, and who knows, maybe even the nation?
Yeah. So, ideally the mission of Wilton Go Green is lofty, right? It's to try and make Wilton the most sustainable most sustainable town in Connecticut, excuse me. And so that's really a lofty goal. And so the only way we're going to get there is through education and activism. And so our impact really revolves around, again, these changes, and really getting people to see that we understand that change is hard, and that some changes are going to be harder than others because they might ask you to drastically change some part of your lifestyle. But to engage with us around simple acts of change, to engage with us around our programming, to know that just by understanding something, by understanding why reducing the amount of food waste that comes out of your home is going to then affect the greater community and the greater state of Connecticut, or why just taking those plastic bags and putting them away and having a reusable bag is going to make such a big difference. And so really that's small collective steps is kind of where we want to draw our impact on, is as a community, so that it can help support the greater state of Connecticut as well, because we are facing a waste crisis in the state of Connecticut. And really getting people to rethink their waste and really think about what they're producing and what they're doing with it is really important for us. So small steps, do one thing, work, come join us in that campaign and join us in the movement and, see what other people are doing and know that your neighbors are doing it too.
Wow. And thank you so much for taking the time out for this interview. That was a lot of information, and I do hope that everybody does check out the Wilton Go Green website, the YouTube channel with all of those previous videos of information on it, social media and everything. But thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing, because your Action Interrupted is doing one thing to make a difference.
Honestly, did not even think of it that way. I was just like, oh, there's so much negativity that we need some positive. We need to have somebody who's, hey, look what people are actually doing, instead of look at all the 100 things that we're not doing and now we're doomed. But that was kind of how I got into it. I didn't even realize it was my do one thing. But
You're doing one thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.